Welcome to PRAJNA SPARKS special series, Why Nirvana Matters, where Yeshe and Zoba talk to contemporary teachers about nirvana, peace, and its relevance in our lives and practice of Buddha Dharma. We're grateful to you for sharing and reviewing our podcast as often as you can. In today's episode, Yeshe speaks to Reverend Doyeon Park. Reverend Doyeon Park is a cumonym, literally meaning one who devotes oneself to teach Buddha Dharma in the Won Buddhist tradition. She has served as a minister of the Manhattan Won Buddhist Temple and a representative of Won Buddhism to the United Nations since 2008. She also serves as Buddhist chaplain at Columbia University and New York University and is co-chair of the Committee of Religious NGOs at the United Nations. Good morning, Doyeon.
Good morning.
I'm delighted to hear from you about Won Buddhism in general first. Some of our listeners may not be familiar with it.
All right. I think that's a good start. So Won Buddhism, W-O-N, that literally means a circle in Korean. In our meditation room, we actually have the circle in our altar instead of the Buddha statue. And this circle is a symbol of Dharmakaya Buddha. It's the symbol of our enlightened nature, so-called Buddha nature. And then Won Buddhism is relatively new tradition, started in 1916, South Korea. So our main focus is to bring this ancient Buddhist teaching to be more useful and practical and applicable in our day-to-day life. So a lot of times in our practice, the focus is to, how we can make this Buddha Dharma to make ourselves be a better person in a day-to-day life. Simply our founding teacher is saying that as we become a Buddhist practitioner, as we become a Dharma practitioner, we need to be a person who can help individuals, families, and societies and the nations. So I think that's maybe the very basic that we can start with.
Just before we started, you mentioned that today's the International Day of Peace. I'd love to hear about that because it relates so much to nirvana as peace.
Right. So here for me, I have this beautiful community here that I lead as a weekly practice here. But at the same time, I represent Won Buddhism to the United Nations as one of the religious NGOs. And part of this religious NGO work that today, September 21st, we celebrate the UN International Day of Peace. From the UN and for all the member states and countries that we celebrate and focusing how we can make this peace in our day-to-day life. So that's the Peace Day. And of course, it's not just for one day today. We make the peace through our spiritual cultivation every day, 24/7. That's our goal.
That's wonderful. Can you say a little bit about Won Buddhism, how it views nirvana, and what's the role of nirvana in the teachings and day-to-day practice?
I guess the nirvana that we understand, just like all other Buddhist traditions, we see nirvana from the Four Noble Truths teaching, and we see the nirvana as simply say extinction. And what is extinguished is the fire of greed, hatred, and delusion, which are the root causes of our dukkha. So we can understand nirvana as a complete liberation. Also, we say complete peace. In the Won Buddhist tradition, our founding teachers, Hutesan's expression of nirvana will be the circle. Again, this one we call the Ilwonsang. Particularly from this Hutesan's words, he describes this nirvana as a state of perfect, complete, utterly impartial, and selfless. That's what we call the 원만구족, 지공무사, that's in Korean. We understand the nirvana, again, as a state of our mind, as a complete peace and complete liberation.
That's lovely. Do you see a parallel between the more Buddhist representation of nirvana that you work with in your spiritual work and more worldly sense of peace that you see in, for example, the United Nations and other areas that aren't necessarily Buddhist or even spiritual?
Well, I guess peace is peace, meaning that I don't really separate this peace from secular perspective or, spiritual religious perspective. Maybe that is why from the beginning I was able to join this Dharma community, because I wouldn't really do the practice that separates myself from the whole world. So that the peace, it's really my spiritual cultivation helps me to have the right understanding or better understanding of peace. Peace, there can be many different levels. And then my Dharma cultivation, the Buddhist practice, helps us to go deep down to the peace for not just for myself, but for all people and all sentient beings around us. Does that make sense?
Yes, it certainly does. Can you say how you might recommend to someone who's just starting out and interested in Buddhism to understand nirvana, this peace, in this very deep way? How do they have a sense of its presence if we're just starting out?
That's a difficult question, but I will try. I will start from the teachings of the Four Noble Truths. So for us, Buddhist practitioner, our practice begins with the recognition of dukkha, meaning the suffering or dissatisfaction or the stress that we experience on a day-to-day basis. So we acknowledge that there are things in life going through it. It's sometimes hard, sometimes challenging. It can be little, starting from little annoyance to the extreme challenges. And yet the Buddhist teaching gives us this path, saying that from the Gautama Buddha and many other spiritual teachers, saying that, there is uneasiness in our life, but through our spiritual cultivation, we can get rid of it. Meaning that will be the cessation of dukkha, the nirvana. And one thing that I personally find is very helpful is that often in the One Buddhist teaching, I heard this from my teachers a lot. Seeing the dukkha, meaning at the same time, we also see the nirvana, meaning that you can just imagine this beautiful lotus flower, and we see this lotus flower that rooted in muddy water, and that symbolize our spiritual cultivation, meaning that in our day-to-day life, we have a lot of things coming and going in the name of dukkha. But again, as long as we continue our spiritual cultivation, Dharma practice, that we can have the flower like a lotus, the beautiful flower. And then you can think about, without the muddy water, there will be no lotus flower, meaning that without the dukkha that we're going through in our life, there must be no nirvana. Again, meaning that if there is no dukkha from the beginning, what's the point of nirvana? So for me, seeing the dukkha, it's not always like depressing or, it's not always like a problematic, meaning that I can see the dukkha and then that gives me more motivation so that I can work hard for the nirvana, for the complete peace and liberation. It's an opportunity. And I think that's a lot of times what I heard from, at least from the One Buddhist teaching. My teacher would say, don't overlook what this dukkha can bring to your life.
So it seems like the things of our daily life are actually like a door or a portal to nirvana, a way to connect.
Definitely. I really like that you use the word door. Definitely, it is the door so that we can always go through. And also this nirvana, when we see nirvana as a peace or the liberation, in our more conventional sense, I see, it's experiential level, meaning that it comes and goes. I mean, I may not have the complete peace all the time, but I see through this spiritual cultivation that the state of mind, this complete calm, peace, clear mind, come and go. So maybe I can continue working hard to make that time much longer and more frequent visit to this nirvana. I think that's where I am in terms of nirvana.
That's lovely. You speak of spiritual cultivation to attain nirvana, the complete peace. Can you speak a little bit about what that involves in your tradition, meditation or other acts or whatever it may be?
Yeah, also in the Won Buddhist tradition, we, just like more traditional Buddhist guidelines, we have threefold trainings. We call the threefold studies. And that involves, maybe from the traditional sense, we say there is a prajna, samadhi, shila practice. So we do have the cultivation of our mind to cultivate the calm, still, clear mind. Mainly that reflects our meditation practice. And then second part for the wisdom aspect. So we, of course, from the studying the old Buddhist text and studying by listening Dharma talks and podcasts like this, it's a way to open our insight for the wisdom aspect. And third, what you call the ethical conduct, the shila practice. In the one tradition, we say mindful choice in action. So it really brings us this aspect. Yeah, we may cultivate calm, still mind. We may have the wisdom, but we have to bring those meditative wisdom into our action. So that will be the third one of the shila, mindful choice in action. So whenever we use our six sense organs in our speech, in our action, in our thoughts, we always try to bring this meditation and the wisdom aspect. Yeah, just like any other Buddhist path, mainly we have three aspects of practice that sums up as samadhi, prajna, shila practice.
That's lovely. You mentioned that you are working with the community there in the center in New York. Can you speak a little bit about the center and the different offerings that are available?
Thank you for asking that. I serve Won Buddhism of Manhattan Temple. We started this community back in 1995, I heard. So we have beautiful community here. We have weekly, many hours Sunday Dharma service at 11 a.m. in New York time. Still, we mainly do the online practice. And then during the weekdays, we have different programs. Sometimes we have 3 weeks or 5 weeks Dharma study groups. I also serve as a Buddhist spiritual life advisor at Columbia University and New York University, where I meet on a weekly basis the college students to practice meditation and share the Dharma teaching together. That's a lovely opportunity for me to learn the young energy. And as I said at the beginning, I also serve here as a religious NGOs. Oh, and one other thing. Here in New York City, we have the Buddhist Council of New York. Since all the Buddhist traditions are actually here in New York City, that's one thing that I really appreciate, this opportunity to meet the teachers and practitioners from different Buddhist traditions from all over the world. I also get a lot of chance to learn from other fellow practitioners and teachers. You are more than welcome to join our community and try many other traditions here in New York City as well.
Sounds such a rich community. Do you think that an understanding of nirvana is helpful for practice? Couldn't you just practice without any sense of nirvana, whether it exists, it doesn't exist?
Definitely, if we have the right understanding of nirvana, that will help us to, motivate ourselves to continue our practice. And also for me, this understanding of the nirvana is ongoing process. I don't think I have a complete understanding for nirvana right now, because I see my practice as a journey. So as long as we are open to that kind of understanding, as long as we keep that space for, whatever comes into our practice, that really helps us to go in our journey. One other thing is that having the right understanding of nirvana, it's like, putting your intention for your practice. Understanding nirvana, meaning, again, you have the understanding of the opposite side of nirvana, right? So I see myself struggling on a day-to-day basis, but at the same time, I know this is not the whole picture. I'm going through these challenges, the dukkhas, but I somehow, if I'm able to see what's behind this dukkha, then instead of giving up or pretending it's not there, I will just kind of face it. I will just see what it is and do my own practice with joy, with patience. And then I think that journey is the way to the nirvana, the way to your Buddha nature, to your inner peace and inner liberation.
How is nirvana related to Buddha nature?
Right. So for me, when I see the nirvana, again, it's not a other place like out there. It's a state of being, as we said, when there's no greed, hatred, or delusion. And that's the place of nirvana. And for me, that's the Dharmakaya Buddha. And that's our Buddha nature, our enlightened nature, when there's no selfish desire or selfish ego. So in that sense, for me, the nirvana is not separate from our Buddha nature.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I see the image of the circle behind you that you mentioned. Can you speak about the symbolism of that circle and how it relates to practice and nirvana and Buddha nature or anything else?
Right. I mean, this is my little altar here I have. We have the circle as a symbol of our Buddha nature, symbol of the truth, symbol of all the teaching that we have in our practice. But then, our founding teacher officially kind of enshrined this circle in our altar. But Sotaesan was not the only one having this circular image as expression of the truth. Many Zen teachers, not only the Buddhist traditions, but also many other spiritual traditions, throughout the history, I could also find some, history from the Christian background as well. There's circular image we see as a symbol of the truth, symbol of God. So, and this is, again, it's also a symbol. It's the expression of the truth. Always the point is that, as you already know, it's not the finger that you need to see, but it's the moon itself. The finger pointing to the moon is helping us to see the real moon. So this Ironsang, again, as a circle, the symbol helps us to see the real moon, the truth. So for me, when I see the circle, I have different circles here and there. Now I see the circle as wow, that's the universe. And that's my Buddha nature, which is well-rounded. Because sometimes when I think of my own mind, sometimes my mind can be really different shape. So like, wow, my Buddha nature is well-rounded, complete, again, the selfless mind. So it's a reminder for me to, look back, going back to my true nature, my original nature, my Buddha nature.
That's so beautiful, Doyeon. Thank you so much for sharing that and for being with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience about nirvana, peace, anything else?
I think it's very important as a practitioner for us to have the sense, this awareness in the back of our mind that everything is ever evolving. Whatever you think you understand at the point right now, that may not be the end. Sometimes we can put the comma, but never period. Take this as a journey.
Thank you so much, and congratulations for the award I heard you received for your work at the United Nations for Interfaith Leadership on this International Day of Peace.
Thank you so much.
This is Yeshe for Prajna Sparks. Find out more about Won Buddhism, the Manhattan Won Buddhist Temple, and Reverend Doyeon Park in the episode notes. Be sure to join us on the next full moon for a new dialogue with another teacher about why Nirvana matters. We can't thank you enough for taking the time to like, follow, share, and review Prajna Sparks. If you have any questions, contact us via email, Instagram, or Facebook. Check the episode notes for those links and for more resources on today's topic. Visit us at the web at prajnafire.com or follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Prajna Sparks. Thank you for listening. May all beings benefit.